Joy Pape, it's so great to see you.
Yes, Scott.
Here in New York City.
So glad you're here. I was thrilled when I heard you were coming.
Me too. I had no idea there was going to be several days worth of festivities here.
Now, when you said, I just emailed you back, Scott, you got to go here, you got to go there. There's lots to do.
I have seen you just grow incredibly.
And I have to thank you for that.
In the last 4 years, since I started noticing you, you spoke at the AADE. We did an article about things you were working on. You've done this comedy thing. You moved to New York City. So tell us, what's it like? What's going on with you?
What's it like?
What's the
Oh my
latest?
gosh, what's it like for any diabetes educator right now? There's so much diabetes and there's so many people to talk to, and it's good to go to bed at night. It's an exciting time and a sad time. Sad that there's so much diabetes, exciting that there's so much information that we can share, and that diabetes has come such a far way.
Yeah. I've started to feel like diabetes, we have the same blood. It goes up and down, the blood sugar, and we're a family.
That's right.
And that there's so many things we can do to help each other that we're not doing yet.
Right.
That we could be doing.
Yes.
And that's what gets me excited.
Yeah, or even today thinking about uniting for diabetes instead of all being separate in our separate little ways. Yet on the other hand, everybody's diabetes is a little bit different. So there is not one, not even a little bit different. Sometimes diabetes is a lot different. And so there's no one message for everybody either, though.
That's one thing that the film that Novo released last night, that with the Discovery Health, well, they went to 6 different continents. They realized every culture, you have to do something different.
Right. When I
There's
teach
no cookie cutter solution for this.
So you take into consideration people's likes, their dislikes, their culture, their financial situation, so many things.
That's where we need a diabetes educator.
That's right.
Because doctors don't really have that much time.
No. What, at most 8 minutes with a person?
Right.
And I'm teaching these classes at 10 hours, and we don't even get it all in 10 hours. It's amazing.
So tell us about Diva. First of all, tell us about your gorgeous...
my gorgeous boa that's kind of losing its feathers
Diva
because I wear
boa.
it so much. Right. I met Max Zadek, who is the founder of Vivacious, and it is a outreach about being diva about diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And so Max has always been in wardrobe, and he was also Luther Vandross's personal assistant. So he knows how to dress it up. Well, anyway, when Max and I came together, we had the same idea, was that a lot of people could prevent complications of diabetes if they just would get out and learn. Well, a lot of people just don't want to get out and learn. That's type 2 diabetes for the most part.
Right.
And so Max felt like if we dress it up a little bit, people would come out. And I got to thinking about it, and I got to thinking, I'd come out for a makeover myself. So what Vivacious does, at least in this one event, it's a makeover. And it's talking about making over our lives, and not just the sitting in the classroom learning about diabetes, although I find when people are able to accept the fact that they've got diabetes or admit it, they want the knowledge, they want the information. But also some people need it a little bit more dressed up, and they will come out for that.
So what you're doing is you're meeting that need. There is a criticism I've heard that sometimes diabetes education is boring.
Right. Well, this is not boring.
They have the plastic fruit and so this sounds like a paradigm shift.
Very much so, right.
And I guess your last event was the biggest one yet?
Yes, the last event.
How many people showed up?
Was it near 500? And yet we've reached out to so many people in this last year, I think over 2,000, whereas a year ago we did 2 pilot programs, and look what's happened in a year.
That's fantastic.
It is fantastic.
So what's the future? How do you roll it out? Last night they told us there's 250 million people with diabetes in the world. It's as big as the United States.
Well, your question, what's the future? I don't know what the future is, other than I know what my future is, and I always think of you with that. You and I were talking once when we were doing an article together, and you said that you knew your role in life was that you were to talk to the masses. And I can see where I was sitting.
I said that back then?
Yes. And
I forgot until recently.
I can see where I was sitting at the moment because it really touched my heart, because I know that that's what I'm about too. And there are masses out there that have diabetes, and we can talk to them and change their lives. Both of us, professionally and personally. With Diabetes Health Professional Magazine, we touch professionals. Think of all the people they touch. So it's to help people live a better life.
I know that the diabetes educators are struggling right now because insurance companies don't really pay for education like we patients wish they would.
Yes.
And I wish there was more of a hiring frenzy of diabetes educators because it seems to be going the other direction.
Well, it's really crazy because here we have an epidemic. Diabetes educators truly, for the most part, are overworked and really underpaid for all the hours that we put in. And so many people that know diabetes educators know that there is such a fire in our hearts. We are just such dedicated people. We do it, and we know there's not enough of us. So reading your next magazine, Diabetes Health Magazine, is going to talk about that. Amy Tenderlick talks about that, and how something's got to change.
But you're seeming to go new paradigms, like you're currently working in a pharmacy.
I was going to talk about that,
That's
right.
educating. How are they paying for that?
Well, this is amazing. But because of all the diabetes in New York City, I mean, diabetes is everywhere, but especially New York City, because it's a melting pot. And for the most part, diabetes is not it doesn't just hit white people, Caucasian people. And we've got people here, Asians, which is a very high rate of diabetes, African Americans, Latinos. So Duane Reade, this pharmacy, decided they were going to step up to the plate and give something back to the community. And so what they started with is starting diabetes education. And it's free diabetes education, group classes, 10 hours to the community of New York City.
Free.
Free. Free.
That's
Now,
astounding.
people can say, well, Duane Reade's going to get something out of that. And yeah, they probably will, but where can you go to get free diabetes education? Making sure that it's a certified diabetes educator, a PharmD, it's a team, and it's phenomenal.
That's fantastic. Well,
It is.
sometime I want to find out more about that. But
Yes.
if that could be rolled out to every pharmacy, that would be great.
That would be great. Yes.
So I know I pay like $700 a month for my family to have health insurance, and it seems like that's the group that should be educating me about my diabetes, not having to go get it for free from somebody else.
You'd think a lot of things.
And you're writing a book? Can you talk about that?
Oh, yes. When I moved here to New York, it was phenomenal. There is a celebrity chef who has diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and I was asked to help work on the book with him. And I've spent almost every Thursday at this great restaurant, West, the Upper West Side, and the chef is Tom Valenti, and it was my job to make sure that these were as much diabetes friendly as could be. I think what stands out more than anything is when I came in and told them that salt's their real issue, they looked at me like, what? Salt?
Salt.
Because so many people with diabetes have high blood pressure. And not everybody that has high blood pressure needs to really watch their salt, but when you think that that's the first thing we teach people, that a lot of people are salt sensitive, we need to watch the salt. Tell a chef that. So that's been the biggest challenge, really. The food is delicious, and all the nutritional counts are there, and it's going to be great.
And it's going to be a cookbook.
It's going to be a cookbook from a celebrity chef from a fabulous restaurant here in New York.
You have just your finger in so many different pies.
Yes.
It's great.
Yes.
So what gives you the most juice for the future moving forward with your projects?
You know, Scott, I've talked to you and I've talked to Nadia, and I have to say, come back to spirituality. It's what gives me the juice. It's being at the right place at the right time. Just asking every morning when I wake up, where am I supposed to be today? How can I affect someone's life? And it seems if I follow that, if I get out of the way and follow that, it's there and the juice keeps coming.
You know, that is such a wonderful feeling when you realize you're in the right place at the right time. And how do you do that?
You get out of the way. You know, really honestly.
Listening?
I mean, it even has to do with your diabetes, with my diabetes care, with your diabetes care. You know, just getting out of the way, oh, I think I want to do this. Well, is it good for me? Is that what I need to be doing? And to learn to love yourself so that you can start taking care of yourself. And then it kind of opens up to the rest of the world.
You just said your diabetes care. Now, you don't have diabetes.
Well, you didn't know that. I've got something called polycystic ovarian syndrome, which you know,
Okay.
which puts one at high risk for diabetes. So
And
since
the treatment's metformin?
yes, now, but it wasn't when I was younger. But and I've got a lot
No, you're supposed to, people with that PCOS are usually overweight.
Usually, I used to be 60 pounds heavier than I am now. Yes.
Really?
Yes. 60 pounds heavier. And I wanted to go a different route. So I thought maybe I could prevent heart disease, which there's so much in my family, and I could prevent diabetes if I lost weight. And so about 20 years ago, I took off about 40 pounds. But you know, my blood sugar started going up. And I caught it in the pre-diabetes state, but honestly, when I had an A1C, because I knew what to do, it was in the diabetes range. So
Above 7?
It wasn't above 7, but it was above 6, so it was outside of normal. And I got on it right away. And yeah, I take metformin, and I check my blood glucose and my blood pressure and do all the things you need to do. So, as many have said to me, yeah, that's type 2 diabetes, they just got on it early. So clearly pre-diabetes, type 2, if I wasn't doing all I was doing, I'm sure that my numbers would be there.
They say if you have a fasting of 126 or higher,
that's diagnostic of diabetes on 2 occasions, yes. And I have, at my home, at times, had those fastings, but that's not how you're diagnosed. You're diagnosed at the lab with fastings over 126.
Right. So you follow a diabetic diet?
Well, is there such a thing? Is there such a thing as
what
a
does
diabetic?
That mean? Right.
But you know, you and I were kind of trailblazers with low carb. I have to say, for me, that is what's turned my life around in many ways.
Yeah.
Personally and professionally.
Well, I just interviewed the dancer Sephora, and she does low carb as well. You know, in some circles, it's not so great to broadcast that.
That's right.
There's still politically. There's still politics. Right?
Well, and the question is, what is low carb? But there are politics. There's been science behind it, and I guess my answer is, it's an individualized approach for everyone. What do you like? Back to what we talked about. And you know, with technology today, we can find out, how's it working for you? How's it working for me? How's it working for you? You know, some people, they don't care to eat like this, and that's fine if what they're doing is working for them.
Right. It seems like if anyone. If their A1C is over 7, they should relook at their treatment program.
Exactly, and I like the way
it needs to be dialed in better.
Yeah, and I like the way you say treatment program, because we were just talking about food, and diabetes treatment is not just food.
Right.
And I always have to remind people that it's a balancing act. It's
medicine.
Food, it's activity, it's medication, it's stress. You know, and it's you just can't look at something and say, okay, it's what you ate. It may have nothing to do with what you ate.
Right.
This story I love. I was writing a magazine article, and this woman wanted me to write just about food. And she said to me, well, you know, Patti LaBelle, her blood sugar was 600. She had to eat really something sweet for that to happen. And I said, not true. She might not have eaten a thing, and her blood sugar could have been 600. So you cannot just talk about that when you talk about diabetes.
I wanted to get your impression. Last week, Halle Berry announced that she's not type 1 anymore, that she weaned herself off insulin. And
I missed that one.
Oh.
I must have been working on the book.
I know when I got diabetes, that was my fervent hope, is that I could do something to make it go away.
Right.
And I tried everything, and other people have had similar stories to tell me.
Sure. I loved your story. I was watching Diabetes Health TV about when you were in church. And you know, I've always laughed about, and someone's been healed and you were sure it was you.
And it wasn't, but I had to go through that.
Sure, exactly.
To accept. I guess there's Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, there's the 5 stages of...
Yes.
And you got to get to that acceptance one somehow, and that might mean you have to try a lot of different things.
Sure, and everybody goes at it different times, and they don't stay in one stage. They may vacillate between one to another. Sure. But it's one thing I always teach people. If you've got type 1 diabetes, you'll always need to take insulin. We don't know in what form years from now, but if you've got type 1 diabetes, unless, you know, stem cell, we can be talking about things like that.
Exactly. Is trying to get the islets to regrow.
Those kinds of things.
The white blood cell attack called off.
Right.
But yeah, that's blue sky right now.
Right, and you'll know that you're doing that kind of thing before you ever stop taking insulin.
Right.
So it's not just to think, well, I can just stop taking my insulin. Well, I think I can go get this drink.
What do you tell them?
That's interesting. We just talked about that in class, and someone was saying, oh, you know, what about type 2s? And, you know, people say they don't have diabetes anymore. I said, yeah, if they're not doing what they used to do. So what they're doing is managing their diabetes. So to say it's gone, I don't know that I can agree with that. If someone's lost 50 pounds, if they gain back the 50 pounds, the numbers will most likely go up again. So it's still a way of managing it. You can say my numbers are normal.
But you tell them they could go off their medication, or
Depending.
if they do all of these things, it's
In
possible.
some people,
I think it would be motivating.
Oh, with type 2, it's possible, but maybe not too. It's a progressive disease, as we know, and again,
Oh wait, are you sure it's progressive?
You know, I'm not sure.
What about people lose 50 pounds?
Right. What I'm saying, you know, I like to hear you say that, because a lot of people say everyone will end up on insulin type 2. I don't think that. You know, if we ate different, if we moved different, we don't know. So do I tell people they can get off medication? I think the first message that I like to tell people is that medication is not evil. You know, people can come in, I'm telling you, a great big bag of supplements, but God forbid give them a pill. No pill, I don't want a pill. And, I think I was there one time in my life too. But I've come to realize a lot of different things. And there's too many people that I'm realizing hate taking medication, and yet, if they don't, take blood pressure for example, they have a stroke. And I think that sometimes we don't look at the balance. Medication, when it's used correctly.
You know, I'm so struck by what you're saying, because my doctor just gave me lisinopril and the other one, and he's like, you got to take this, and I'm like, no, I just want to take the insulin. I don't want to. And they're sitting at home. I haven't opened them yet. I'm like, well, if my cholesterol's fine, why do I have to take this? And it frustrates me.
It's funny.
Oh, the other one that makes you cough. What's that one?
The ACE.
The ACE inhibitor.
Yes.
So what's your take on that?
Well, it's interesting, especially when it hits you personally. I just had a recent experience this summer, and with a very strong family history. And my cholesterol's fine, but something happened, and I did more studying honestly. I think that it's some insurance. There's been a lot of research, and it's some insurance, and I don't take that chance.
And the side effects aren't?
Well, I think that's what we need to look at. Take them, see how the side effects do, look at your numbers. We're so far with technology today that we can find out how we're doing with things.
I know personally, I grew up kind of organic, stay away from medicines, and now, you know, my brother just quit smoking with Chantrix. It blocks the receptors. I have friends whose kids are on ADD medicine.
Right.
All completely changed their life, and so it's like better living through chemistry. It's hard to accept, but there seems to be so many benefits to.
And I think it's a thing for each person to come to that decision. But, you know, I personally, looking at quality of life, and I'm not saying that you have to go there for quality of life, but I'm saying as far as me personally, and I think it's helped me be a better healthcare professional, I've allowed my eyes to open up more, and it may not be for some, but there are recommendations, and there's evidence-based medicine behind some of these things. I just don't want it to get so far that we look at a plate and it's all pills.
Right.
Don't want to be living like that.
Well, Joy, it's so great to sit down with you. And I hear the band is starting over there, and we're here in Union Square in New York City for this fabulous Changing Diabetes World Tour that Novo Nordisk has sponsored. And thanks for coming over.
Thank you so much, guys.